Hi everybody. Today I have a twofer. I'm going to review It Will Just Be Us by Joe Kaplan and also River of Teeth by Sarah Grailey. It's been a rough couple of weeks. I had yet another hearing on Friday. Someday I will sit you down and I will tell you the entire sordid saga from beginning to end, but at this point it's gone beyond farce. It's wow. I'm not going to say any more about it than that, but it's been postponed one more time. It's been kind of sad too. I'm still reeling from the death of Tina Turner, who is one of the all-time greats. She was one of few things that my mother, my sister, and I could all agree on. We loved Tina Turner. She was amazing. And then just kind of barely crawling out of that, and BookTube's a little darker. One of our BookTube compatriots, I guess we could call her, Pax Panic. She lost her battle with cancer last week. So pour one out for Pax. I wasn't closely connected with her, but a lot of members of the BookTube community are paying tribute to her, and she contributed quite a lot. She contributed to her verse to this strange little world we're in. So if we could all accomplish that much, we'd be quite well off. And then we lost Cormac McCarthy. So yeah, it just has not been a good week. I mean, he was what, 89? Cormac McCarthy had a good run, published a lot of great books, very well regarded. But he, especially for June on the Range, I guess I'm going to have to read some Cormac McCarthy this in the coming weeks and months. So yeah, it's been a complicated kind of couple of weeks. There's still a lot of uncertainty right now with my job situation, with my home situation. But it's always great for escapism, right? So first I'm going to review It Will Just Be Us by Joe Kaplan. This one was a lot of fun. I'm going to give this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. The writing was really good. It was, I listened to the audiobook for this one. So there was an added layer from the audiobook reader. Sorry about that. I had to look up the name of the audiobook reader. Her name's Amanda Dolan. And unlike a lot of audiobook readers, she's only got a couple of acting credits to her name. So I don't know if she's an actress or if she's got some other sort of, maybe she's a broadcaster. I don't know. Anyway, she has a nice timbre to her voice, and she does the different, she does sort of a different voice for each character, which is, makes it more interesting and less, kind of flat to listen to. And one more time, I'm not affiliated with Chirp, but I absolutely love the service. There's no fee anytime. You just, you sign in for a free account and you just buy books as they come up. I got this one for $5 US. They've got excellent deals every week. And always more. If you miss it this week, there's going to be another one. And as I said, I have a really hard time stopping myself from going click, click, click and buying everything because they're so cheap and good. And you've got a pretty good selection. So again, I listened to the audiobook for It Will Just Be Us. Now the plot is very Southern Gothic. It's a haunted house story. And it's told from the point of view of a woman named Sam Wakefield. She lives in her family's ancestral home, and it's a very rambling home that was built by a crazy lady, kind of an homage to Winchester House, where it just sort of kept growing as this lady kept adding more and more areas. And there's a room where nobody goes, where bad things happened. And she's pretty content to live there with her mother. She's an archaeologist. Sam is an archaeologist, not her mother. Now, I don't like the name Sam, so I had a hard time kind of warming up to the character. I don't like the name Samantha, because I had a roommate named Samantha who screwed me over, and henceforth was called Cumbucket, so you can tell what kind of relationship we had after that. But it's kind of funny how a character's name informs what you think of that character. But anyway, so Sam is an archaeologist, and she teaches at the local college, and she's doing some research on just her family home and the swamp, where they live right on the edge of a swamp. And it also has a lot of, I guess, sort of spiritual relationship to It Will Just Be Us We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I mean, even the title has a sort of similar feel to it, by Shirley Jackson. And also the idea of a room where nobody goes, that was in The Haunting of Hill House in the series, but I'm not sure if it was in the book. I didn't really care for the book, so I kind of read it, and that was that. So Sam lives with her mother, and her mother is an alcoholic, possibly in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's or some kind of senile dementia. She doesn't go out. She's a shut-in. And Samantha does, all the shopping, and she's one of those Wakefields that nobody likes in town. That's one of the reasons I liked We Have Always Lived in the Castle, because being the crazy sisters that nobody likes, that's my life. And so one night, her sister, who is very pregnant, shows up. And she's had a fight with her husband, and so she moves back in with the family. And along with her sister, Elizabeth has brought with her a kind of bad influence, or maybe not. There's always, this being a supernatural story, there's always a question: is this really happening? Is this perception? Is this time? Is this mental illness? What is it? Now, one of the things I really liked about this book is that the ghosts are actually ghosts. There's no question. They're not manifestations of mental illness. They are there. They interact, and they scare the crap out of everybody who hasn't lived with them their whole lives. So she starts seeing this boy around, and he is a very bad boy. He tortures animals. He's just a nasty, nasty little creature. And one night, and this is one of the creepiest scenes ever, he's kind of crawling along the corridor and scratching at her door and calling, "Auntie." That's another thing. My sister's son calls me Auntie. My sister's kids both do. And he's scratching at the door. He's like, "Auntie." And she realizes that this is her sister's son. So she has to figure out, does she do something? Does she tell her sister? How does this play out? So as Samantha tries to unravel the mystery of, why this ghost is different from the other ones, and how to stop it, how to, not bring this monster into the world, we also get some of the background of this house and how it was built, and the crazy lady who built it, and a little bit of the family history. And the swamp the book uses historical information about, I only recently read about the Maroons, who were a group of escaped slaves who went and lived in a swamp area. And that's who these characters are based on. And in the swamp, there is a supernatural force, a swamp witch. Yay, swamp witch! I love swamp witch. Any kind of swamp witch. Who has an influence over all these characters. And there's a lot of contemplation about time, and about how the energy of these spirits interacts between the past and the present and the future. It's kind of complicated to explain it like that without actually spoiling it, but it's I wasn't quite on board with it all the way through. I felt like we should have spent more time with, I would have much preferred to spend a little bit more time with the Maroon characters and with that community, and a little bit more kind of in the backstory of this crazy lady who built the house, and rather than, the sisters bickering. So that's why I'm going to give it 4.5 stars rather than 5. It had a very satisfying ending and lots of creepy stuff. It's more psychological horror than anything gory, but there's some very some very uncomfortable horror elements to it. So very Southern Gothic. It's set in Virginia, and it very much wears its influences on its sleeve, and it's a good story. I like Joe Kaplan. I just had to check something. If you look in the very earliest videos of mine, Joe Kaplan also writes. Joe Kaplan is actually a pseudonym. The author's name is Joanna Perepinski, and she contributed a story called Amalgam to an anthology that I edited a few years ago. And so there's an interview with Joanna on my channel if you want to go and check it out. She was pretty cool. So I've kind of followed her, and I'm really liking that. She's had some great books published. I've got another book of hers that I will be hopefully reading and reviewing in the future, but I really enjoyed this one. Highly recommend it. Now, for June on the Range, my next review, oh boy, River of Teeth by Sarah Grailey, which is the first in, there's actually 2 in the series, and I didn't know this, but there are 2, and you can actually get them together. If I had known that, I would have bought them both at the same time, but I only bought the one and read it. All right, so the first one is called River of Teeth. The sequel is called Taste of Marrow, and then there's also a short story called Worth Her Weight in Gold. So I'll be reading those in the future. I'm not sure if I'll review them, but I'll definitely be reading them. I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars. Or actually, no, I'm going to give this one 4 stars. It would have been 4.5 stars, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So 4 stars, this was... All right, so I talked about it briefly during my kind of lead up to June on the Range. I was looking at TV tropes and trying to figure out some good cowboy stories, and this one, the premise of it just cracked me up. Apparently, in the early 20th century, the U.S. Congress wanted to import hippos as a meat source and set them free in the Louisiana Bayou. Now, as we found out with the cocaine hippos in Colombia, bad idea. What a terrible idea. So, of course, it never came to pass. And, I mean, the truth is, hippos are very mean creatures. Like, they just cannot be domesticated. And I'll get back to that in a minute. So River of Teeth is, it's about story-wise, it really does play with a lot of Western tropes. So you have a guy named Winslow Houndstooth. He's a Brit. And he formerly had a ranch, but when it burned down through suspicious circumstances, he and his hippo went, riding on adventures. So he's been to a lot of places. He's met a lot of people. And now he's gathering the gang together for a caper. But he keeps insisting it's not a caper. And he's been contracted by the government to go to this boat because this, rather than taking place the way most Westerns do in the American West or Southwest, one of the things that we're kind of used to seeing in Westerns is it's a very hot, very dry kind of climate. This takes place in the Louisiana Bayou, which is swamp and wetness and marine mammals. So he is contracted by the government. He's contracted by the government to basically blow up the dam and get rid of a bunch of feral hippos that are in the marshlands around this casino. Now, as it turns out, he's got a bigger agenda in mind, because the owner of the casino, he's pretty sure had something to do with his, with his ranch being blown up. So he's also on a revenge mission. And I think there's a lot of twists and turns. There's a couple of bar fights. There's a very good cast of characters. I really enjoyed it. Now, anybody who complains that stories are too woke is going to be annoyed or pissed off, because, ooh, the main character's gay. And there's 2 women on the team. Oh, and they're competent women too. And if that, that pisses you off, hold on to your hair, because there's a character who's both non-binary and non-white. Ooh. But great characters. I liked them all. I enjoyed them all. So show me on the doll where the fictional character hurt you. Anyway, I was reading this and I was thinking about all of the discussions about wokeness and about, presenting characters who aren't your typical, white male American individualist. And yeah, I know it probably pissed off a few people, but oh well, too bad. So where I have a little bit of contention, I think we probably could have spent a little bit more time with the world building, because the action moved so quickly through this area. I mean, we read about the swamps being partitioned off from the Mississippi River, but I had some questions about, like, how come they never seem to be wet, even though the hippos have to stay wet all the time? And in 1890s clothing, if they're swimming, then they're gonna be kind of heavy, aren't they? So I mean, these are things that aren't really answered in the text, and it's a fairly short read, which is why we don't spend a lot of time with the world building. We're more interested in getting the team together, getting the caper happening, and then the twists and turns and backstabbing and drama that happen because of these characters all kind of being suspicious about each other. So that part of it was good. And then, and you can tell that, I mean, the author just had a lot of fun. And then, of course, the other reason I knocked off half a star was really just the willing suspension of disbelief, because hippos weren't domesticated ever for a reason. They are absolutely probably the meanest creatures on God's green earth, and in order to be domesticated, there has to be a certain temperament. That's why we were only able to domesticate certain animals. Like, there's certain criteria. They have to have a natural hierarchy. They have to be able to eat anything. They have to breed quickly in captivity. And, they have to have a certain temperament. And hippos just, no. Nope. I was just reading about this guy who, he had a hippo that he treated like a pet. And, on the one hand, I kind of think he had it coming, but on the other hand, I do feel sorry for him, because it cannot have been an easy death. And he would, the hippo would kill other animals, and he'd be like, oh, it's just being a hippo, and oh no, it's so gentle. I've raised it since it was a baby. And yeah, it chewed him to death. So yeah, that's probably the only person who's ever tried to ride a hippo. And that was what he got for it. And the other thing that is kind of burned the world down as far as hippos go, they're vegetarians. They don't even eat us because they're hungry. They eat us because they don't like us. So anyway, River of Teeth, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it as far as, you know, just a different kind of Western. If you're offended by woke politics, yeah, get out of here. I don't care. Might not be your cup of tea, but it was a fun read, and the hippos were great, and I really enjoyed the characters. So 4 out of 5 for that one. It Will Just Be Us, 4.5 out of 5, and I hope you're reading lots of horror. Have a great day.